Hey everybody, this is me, Undead Viking. I want to take some time out of your day to talk to you about this game. It's called Fur vs. Scale. In Fur vs. Scale, each person will take on the role of an anthropomorphic creature that is in a fighting tournament. And each person then will have a deck of cards that they will draft certain action cards that they'll then use. And then each person will take a turn to place one card down in a long battle line. And then depending upon the combos of the cards along, you'll score some points. Now the thing is that you aren't really like beating each other up and knocking them out, but you are playing the game to like be the most successful in as far as your attacks, blocking your opponent's attacks, and also countering your opponent's attacks and using super special powers and other things, and also using your great finisher moves as well. When you do those things and do them well, you will score points. And the whole goal of the game is that over 4 rounds, you want to be the first person to score 60 points. So why don't I show you how to play the game, Fur vs. Scale, and then we'll come back here and I'll talk to you more about why I have enjoyed playing it. Alright, cool. Alright, this is Fur vs. Scale, and this is 2 of the decks that you're going to get with the game. That is Pumpkin and Malice that you see in front of you. There also are 2 other decks that you get here, and this one is Snaggle, this cool little alligator guy, and this is Luna. She is a wolf knight, if you will. So there are actually 4 choices you're going to have when you play the game. But regardless, I'm going to show you how to play using Pumpkin and Malice. So as you can see in front of you, you have these 2 decks. There are 30 cards in each of those decks. Then you get this little card with it that actually tells you your special powers of your character. In this case, Pumpkin, his finisher is block, block, counter, which I'll explain in just a little bit when I show you how to play the game. But then it has the 2 special powers. And normally what you're doing each turn is you're going to be putting a card down from your hand. You're going to have 6 cards in your hand. I'll explain how that works as well. But instead of putting a card down your hand, as long as you can satisfy one of these 2 requirements, Catnap, opponent has more points, then you get to use like Pumpkin's block card value is not reduced to 0 when there is no opponent counter or attack card to left. So there's like a little ability that you can have there. And then also like Totem Vision. If the Pumpkin must have 10 or more points, once per round, discard a card, draw a card of equal value from Pumpkin's discard pile. So, you know, just a little way to break the rules, if you will. And looking at Malice, we see her finisher is counter, counter, attack. And then we have the same thing, opponent must have more points. The lure, the value of Malice's counter is not reduced by the opponent's attack value. These are rules that I'll explain here in just a little more, in more detail here in just a little bit. But then Hypnotize, Malice must have 10 or more points. Once per round, Malice discards 1 card of 4 or greater value and removes any card of lesser value from the fight map. So just different powers you can have. Now these are the 2 finisher cards, and I'll explain how those work again in just a little bit. Basically what you're doing is you're trying to build up chains of cards as you play them in order to score points. Now there are 3 different types of cards. Actually, I should say 4, but the 4th type is just replicates the other 3 types and has superpowers. But so there are attack cards. You can tell their attack as they say attack, and they have a value, which is 2. The values are 1 through 9. And then you can see there's this red swipe here, meaning that they're attacking. They're attacking to the right. There's counter cards that have this little blue switch over here. They work the same as a block and an attack, since they're blocking the attack and countering the attack, and a value of 3. Counters, there's a counter with 9. Counters, alternatively, do have a maximum of 9, but have a minimum of 2. And then you have, let me find a block card for you here. There's a block card. So here we have a block card, and you'll notice that it is a swish to the left. And so like attack cards and block cards work, you know, like this is when you wouldn't be attacking yourself, but you can kind of see how those are set up against each other, like so. Now the 3rd type of card are called supers, and supers will have a 10 value on them, as you can see there, and they just replicate. This would be a super block, if you will. And super cards are important because not only are they powerful, but they also have the ability of being able to be inserted into the chain of the cards as you lay them down. Basically the way the game works is that you're going to kind of do a personal draft of cards into your hand, and then you're going to play those cards against each other. So the way it works is you take 2. What you're going to do is you're going to take like 4 cards off the top of your deck. you're going to look at those 4 cards, and you're going to keep 2 of those cards. And so, and since you want to make sure that you have like good cards later on, you need to like, you know, kind of not always just take the best possible cards right away, because of the fact that this is like you're drafting, you want to make sure you take good things. So maybe you want to take this attack of 9 and this block of 5, and you're going to take these 2 counter cards, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to put them on the bottom of your deck. When you put them in the bottom of your deck, you place them in any order that you want. So you can just, you know, and then you put the rest of them on top. And then you do the exact same thing again. You're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, and you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to look at the 4 cards you got. So we got a super. Maybe we're going to keep that super block. A block of 3 and attack. So let's take this block, and actually let's take a block and this like lower attack, like attack of 3, like that. So you're going to take those 2, put them down, and then you're going to do the exact same thing one more time. 3, 4. And you're going to look at those cards, and we got a bunch of blocks and an attack this time. And so let's just take this block of 2 and attack of 2, you know, kind of a weaker cards, but we're setting ourselves up for further rounds that we'll be able to use those other cards for it. So then Malice's player has their 6, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards they're going to be using this particular round. And just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to take the top 6 cards of Pumpkin's deck, like so. And so now each person's going to have their 6 cards, and depending on the first player, let's say Pumpkin's the first player, they're going to look in their deck and they're going to pick 1 card, and they're going to start the fight chain, if you will. So looking at this, I'm just going to kind of look. I have no idea what I just dealt myself. So he's got a bunch of blocks and a counter. Not the best deck, actually, but so you're going to maybe start off with an attack. And so you put that attack down like so, and then Malice will have to respond to it. Now, the whole idea is that you're either putting a card down on this side or that side, like so. And you're going to be wanting to block or counter your opponent's attacks, but you're also going to want to be able to score points with your own attacks, and like so they can't be blocked. So since he opened up with an attack, he no longer can get a card right here. If you put a card there, he's not able to put it down there. So you can actually attack and attack, and it actually is going to be worth points. So, like if you put an attack like so, there's no way that we're going to, as Pumpkin, be able to block that attack, because, you know, there's no block card here. And so, but, you know, on Pumpkin's turn, what they can do is they can then, you know, if they have another attack, I'm going to actually just give myself another attack so I can show you how this works. So if Pumpkin takes another attack card and adds it on there, like so, he's now built like a little chain of cards together, a chain of attack cards, if you will. And so that's actually a pretty powerful attack, so it's 9. And so now you're going to have the situation where the players are going to be trying to like build up like ways that they're going to be able to score points. So we know that this attack's going to be worth points because it can't be blocked, but we need to kind of reduce the amount of damage that is on there. And so now you could place that, you could block that particular attack. Now you're not going to be able to block all of it, but you're going to block some of it. Now this might not make a lot of sense to you, but if this was scored at this point, you would say, okay, the first attack is 3, it isn't blocked, so that's worth 3 points. And if it got done, notice that it wouldn't be done because there's going to be there's a maximum of 12 cards that are going to be played out here. You might end up discarding some due to certain things happening. But just in this case, if this were only the cards we're going to score, this would be worth 3 because it is not blocked at all. Then you would take 3 plus 6 is 9, but then you would minus 5 from it. And so that would be worth 4. So in this situation, it would be this would be worth 3, these would be worth 4, and this block card, after it had been reduced in power because of the fact that it is a 5 and had 9 to it, it would actually go down to minus 4. Now, if it had managed to block all of it, like if it had been like this, the block card would have been worth points as well. But due to the fact that the block card's been reduced to 0, it's not going to be worth any points. And so you have a situation where this is 3, this is 4, but, and this is kind of one of those weird things, the first attack card in the chain that actually is able to score a hit and do damage gets bonus points. So that would be worth an extra 1. So that would actually be worth 4 points in this case. And if you're actually able to chain cards together like this, you are then able to get bonus points for each card in the chain. So these would be 1, this would be 1. That would be 2 bonus points. And then you'd have 9 minus 5. So 2 to the 4, so 6. So in this situation, this would be worth 4, this would be 6, and that would be the end of the round as far as that goes. Now remember, the goal of this game is to be the first person to reach 60 points. If you are tied and both people are over 60 points up to the end of the round, you continue playing and see who then possibly could win the next round. If it's after 4 rounds and the score remains tied or nobody scored 60 points, the battle will end in a draw. So just keep that in mind. So there's more to it than just this, obviously. As I said, there are different cards as well. Now this is like the super block, if you will. As I said, the super blocks are the cool cards that are actually able to slide in and be able to play, and go into a spot. They can be played as normal, like on the back or so forth, but they actually are able to push the other cards and slide in. So like you could, put the block in that would block, this 10 would block all of that damage, and so you'll have 1 point left over in that case. I mentioned the finishers, and the finishers are cool because of the fact that you have the finisher cards out like this, and the moment that you're able to put together, and this is only in round 3 or 4, remember you have 4 rounds, but in round 3 or 4, if you can put together your combination of block, counter, or counter, attack, and that's different for each one of the characters, you are then able to activate your finisher. So let's just manufacture this so I can show you how this works. Let's go ahead and just take these two out, and we're going to go ahead, like I said, and manufacture a situation. So if you had, like, these 2 cards here, so you had a block and attack, and let's say you had a counter right there. And so let's say then on Malice's turn, they saw an opportunity to increase their attack value in that situation. So they took another attack card out of their hand and placed it there. And then you had another, placed a block card like there, and theoretically maybe the other player didn't see the opportunity that you had, like they had another massive attack that they wanted to play. Or I should mention that they actually have the ability, if you want to, you can take a block card that you have, and instead of using it as a block card, you can use it as a power up to increase the attack value. So maybe they wanted to go ahead and place this block card behind that attack, adding 2 to that attack. Unbeknownst to them, you had another block card like so that you were going to be placing at the end of that line. And so then with that block counter that actually is the finisher for Pumpkin, at that point, and immediately as soon as that card is placed, you're going to go ahead and take those cards, you're going to remove them, and you're going to place your finisher out on the board. And the finisher, what it does is, first, it's worth 15 points automatically, and it can't be counted in any way. And anything to the right of the finisher is then immediately discarded as well. And in this situation, you'd only have 1 card left out on the battle line. Now, it is possible that you have a situation, though it doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen, where both finishers can come into play. And so you notice it is a counter attack for Malice. And so, like, if you had a situation where they had counter attack like this, then that would immediately also be taken out, and then Malice's finisher would take the spot, and it would then get rid of any card to the right, including a finisher, leaving only 1 card in the battle line, like so. So that is how those finishers can come into play, and you need to be watching out for those. And usually, if you know how, like, if you're paying attention, you have these cards, and that's open knowledge as far as what they goes, you can plan to defend against those. But by defending against them, you might end up having to place cards where you don't really want to put them, because they're not going to really score you any points, so they're not going to be really effective. Or, the other player will have certain abilities, like Malice's ability, that allows you to remove cards from the map or something like that, where you can kind of trick the situation into allowing you to, like, get your cards together and to form those combos to do that process. So basically what happens there is just what I just showed you. You're going to get, each round, you're going to get a total of 6 cards in your hand. Each person's going to play 1 card at a time. It's possible that they'll be able to use their special abilities on their cards if the situations allow it, and you're going to be scoring points at the end of each round until one person scores 60. And that, in a nutshell, is how to play a game of Fur versus Scale. Now, there's a lot more to it than just what you see, because of the fact that the actual drafting of the cards into your hand is probably the biggest part of the game. Knowing, because you're going to see nearly every single card is going to be played at some point, because you start with 6 cards and you're going to go through the deck and you're going to see all those cards because of the fact that you're going to be drawing 4, picking 2, drawing 4, picking 2, drawing 4, picking 2. So you're going to see those cards, but knowing what to save and knowing what to hold on to, and knowing and kind of like being able to kind of figure out what the strategy of your opponent is, plays a big part in being successful in a game of Fur versus Scale. So I'll talk more about that and how I really enjoy playing this game in my conclusion, which I'll do right now. When I first picked up the game and I took a look at it, the first thing I said when I saw it and I saw the cards inside, I said Yomi, which is a game that came out that had like kind of a rock, paper, scissors element that was a fighting game. But I couldn't have been more wrong. This wasn't Yomi at all. This was a completely different animal. And yes, there is kind of a rock, paper, scissors thing going on with attacks and blocks and counters, but they aren't truly being rock, paper, scissors. I mean, attacks are just attacks and blocks take care of those attacks, and then counters are kind of a mishmash of both things. There was one rule I forgot to mention when I was showing you how to play the game. A counter that doesn't actually counter an attack still maintains its attack power, because the whole idea of the counter is that it's blocking an attack and then it has power left over, and then it takes the power that has left over and applies it an attack to the right of it, or to my right, not your right. Well, you know what I mean, to the right of it. And so then when it applies it to the right, then it has to be affected. But if you place a counter and it doesn't block anything, they're kind of a little bit too powerful. So what you do is, since it's called a quick strike, what you do then is that you immediately have the value rounding down, and that is its attack value to the right that has to be blocked. I apologize, I forgot to mention how those counters worked. But regardless, it isn't a true rock, paper, scissors, because there isn't a rock, there isn't a paper, there isn't a scissors. Instead, you have these 3 different sets of moves, along with the super moves and the finishers as well, that each have their own position, each have their own power, and each have their own purpose. And then you have the combined thing of like each one has their special ability, but also they have like an added ability in the case of block and counters for that matter. But then they also have like the different values to them. And so the biggest part of the game really for me is the drafting of the 6 cards that you want to use and trying to figure out what the other players are going to have in their hand, and then you're going to try to use those cards to the best of your ability. Now when I open it up, I showed how I opened up with that attack. That usually isn't a really good idea. Opening up with a counter always seems like a good idea because of the fact that you're protecting yourself either way. You're attacking and you're making them play something, but they can't just drop another attack to the other side. But if you have ulterior plans, if you're going to be using the special powers of your character, which are really cool, you can, you have a method to your madness, if you will. And I've enjoyed playing the game and enjoyed playing each of the 4 different critters that was included with my copy of the game, and using them because they're all different and they all have like those different special powers, but they also just have different cards in there, and then they have like there's 3 basic cards with the values and what have you, and they're just to get the cards to work the way that you want them to, depending upon your strategy, is a difficulty. And it is a puzzle, and it is like a puzzle not only on your end of just making sure that you have 6 cards that are useful, but it also has a lot of like the subtle bluffing and hinting of like, what is my opponent going to be going for this particular round, and how am I going to combat that? Now, it can seem a little chaotic at first when you first play the game because you just don't have a knowledge, but after you've had like a couple, 2, 3 plays of it, the strategies and the combos start revealing themselves to you, and you kind of have that click moment where the game kind of reveals itself, and you really then start diving into the inner workings of it, or peeling the onion, as I like to say. So there's a lot of game in this little tiny box, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. So I invite you to go ahead and check out the Kickstarter page for this one, and see if it's something you think you want to add to the table. I think if you like 2-player fighting games, if you like this, this is one of the games that goes in my backpack that I take with me to work for my lunch hour. It's quick and it's fast, and and it's also one of those games that you can teach in about 5 minutes, but mastering it and like getting a grasp of it takes a long time. And that what that means, it means lots of replay value and lots of bringing it back to the table. And the fact of the matter is, with the 4 different things that I have, the 4 different animals or fighters that I have. And the artwork is amazing. It's beautiful, by the way. But the four different fighters that I have, like each of them, like has their own strengths and weaknesses, as I said, but they also interact with each opponent in a different way, and so that's kind of neat, pitting them against each other. And like what might work against Pumpkin, might not work against Luna, if you will. So I mean, it's kind of fun to play around with those. So there you go. That is Fur vs. Scale. If you have any questions about the game, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.